To say that this is one of my most anticipated movies of all time is a complete understatement, but I am acknowledging the fact that DC, Warner Brothers, whoever, has a horrible track record with actually delivering on the things that they promise. So walking into this movie, honestly, I had very low expectations. Walking out of this movie, I was hoping that James Gunn did at least these three things right. And those three things were, I was hoping that he treated Ma and Paul Kent right. I hope that he conveyed a sense of why it's important that Ma and Paul Kent are included in Superman's life. Second, I was hoping that he did right by Lois Lane. Lois Lane has her own character. Lois Lane has her own agency. And that's what I was hoping to get from this movie. And number three, very simple. I was hoping to walk away from this movie with a feeling of hope, just because consuming comics for the past 10 years or so, every piece of Superman media that I've read or watched, there's always a sense of hope. You always leave with a better sense of humanity. And I was really hoping that that was one of the things that I got from this movie. And I am so happy to say that James Gunn delivered. He, Babe Ruth pointed out to the stands, winds up, and he knocks it completely out of the park. That's not to say that this is a 100% solidly perfect movie. There are a few things that happened in this movie that would be considered nitpicks or criticisms. I don't really have a big critique or one big glaring issue. There were just a few things that stood out to me as I was watching the movie. I was like, not the thing that I thought was going to happen, or not the thing that I think I would have chosen, but it doesn't necessarily mean the story or the plot or the themes or the characters were completely ruined. I'm not saying that, but there were a few things that stuck out to me, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. I'll start with the pros really quick. I think David Corenswet as Superman will eventually be like Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is inseparable from the role of Iron Man, and it's going to be so hard. Actually, it's almost impossible as of late to find someone to carry the mantle of Iron Man, because Robert Downey Jr. did such a great job. And that means a lot, especially coming from me as someone who loves DC and the DCU. I love Marvel too, but the MCU seems to not be my biggest thing lately. The main cast did really well. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. Again, James Gunn seems to understand the core character of who Lois Lane is, where she is tenacious when it comes to seeking the truth. I think that came off with her interaction, especially the interview scene where she was interviewing Superman. She was asking him questions and actually looking for answers, not just these pie-in-the-sky feelings, but actually helping him understand the consequences, like a normal person or what the government might be thinking. The government can be like, hey, this US agent is attacking a foreign country. So it can be way bigger than what Superman had maybe initially thought. So it was really cool to see her challenge him in a way. And I think that is very comic accurate in my opinion. David Corenswet obviously did a really good job as Superman. I talked about him a little bit. Lex Luthor came across very well. I think he was a little bit hammy, almost theatrical in the way that he was portrayed, where I think a lot of people might have been expecting a more like toned down strategic version. Not saying that this version of Lex Luthor wasn't strategic, but he had like evil monologues and stuff like that, where he was like passionately screaming and passionately confessing the fact that he hates Superman. I think some of the media that I've seen beforehand portraying Lex, it's a lot more subtle. It's a very subtle rage that comes out eventually. But again, it wasn't something that rubbed me the wrong way, because James Gunn understands what Lex is going for. And that was the most important thing to me that they get across in Krypto. Krypto, in my theater experience, maybe 100 people around me, Krypto had the biggest laughs. Krypto had the biggest, he is like the baby Groot. He is the innocent thing that people like latch themselves onto. And especially when he had like the nanites, covering his face, literally everyone in the crowd went, "Aw," because, no one wants to see a dog in pain or people in pain. So I can't complain about it. Like I know James Gunn knows how to work an audience. That's his biggest strength. Exhibit A. Guardians of the Galaxy. James Gunn knows how to make you feel. He knows what the audience is going to react to. And Superman, I feel like couldn't miss. Although my expectations were really low, I was expecting him to hit these character beats and these emotional beats on the nail on the head, because he does it all the time, and he's done it with the MCU. So Superman, he has plenty of material to play with. That leads me into some of my critiques, or some of the things that did pull me a little bit out of the movie. Some of these are more severe than others. One of the things that pulled me out of the movie was I'm very curious. Like, while I was watching the movie, I was like, is this a JSA setup or is this a Justice League setup? I know they kept making the joke of like the Justice Squad or the Justice Guild. Obviously, that's going to lead to the Justice League, or that's what I think. But the Justice League, it's not familiar to me to have Guy Gardner as the Green Lantern in the Justice League. Typically, it's John Stewart, from what I understand, and maybe even Hal Jordan. Guy Gardner came a little bit later. Hawkgirl is there, Metamorpho. I'm not sure if that's the Justice League that I'm familiar with. Also, Mr. Terrific. I know it's typically like a cyborg situation, but Mr. Terrific being like the computer, the supercomputer, totally makes sense. But also, I know the JSA came before the Justice League, so I didn't know if he was trying to mix and match both of those. But again, Alan Scott being the Green Lantern and the JSA, Guy Gardner, I just am like, I was watching it and I was like, whoa, what super team is he trying to build here? Second thing that kind of took me out of the movie, there was some shots where it's like the CGI was so apparent to me. Again, I don't know if the general audience is watching for these specific things, but there were moments where I think he was being delivered to the military base camp or whatever, and he's stepping out of the shuttle. And I know it is CGI. You can tell. It felt like they had the steps there in real life. Obviously, David Corenswet is there in real life, but there's this like composite background where I was like, whoa, that like there's such a dramatic contrast between what is physically there and what is computer generated, that I was like, oh, that just like kind of shocked me a little bit. There were just some moments where there was setup or establishing shots that I was like, whoa, it's very noticeable. Speaking of the supporting cast and understanding the JSA and Justice League, kind of what exactly is going on here, Hawkgirl kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, only because I think of Hawkgirl as this physically impressive. The actress who played Hawkgirl, I was like, I don't know if I would have cast her. She's like 5'2" or 5'3". That's not what I would have done. Also, having her screech every time she's attacking someone, I'm like, that's not what I would have done. But I get it. I understand they wanted to give her as much oomph as possible. Another slight thing that took me out was it took me a while to get used to Guy Gardner's humor. He was very Deadpool-y to me, if that makes sense. Guy Gardner isn't a character that traditionally breaks the fourth wall, but I felt like, to me, there was a lot of Deadpool humor, especially at the very end, where they go to save the day, all of that is happening, and he's flipping over the tanks, and there's like big middle fingers and just like haphazardly flipping tanks over and stuff like that. All in all, though, like as a package delivered, as soon as I was done watching this movie, my wife asked me, she goes, how did you like it? And I was kind of sitting there in stunned silence, because I was like, to realize that there's a Superman movie that was actually good and actually portrays Superman in a positive light, doing things that Superman would do, saving people, saving squirrels, saving dogs. There's an instance where that big monster does like a fire breath or whatever in the thing, and the first thing that Superman does is he turns around and checks on everybody. That is Superman. But boiling it down to who Superman is, who Lois Lane is, who our main cast is, did they do a good job? Did they portray these characters in a good, positive light and comically accurate? The answer is yes. There is no maybe. They did. James Gunn did do that. This is also a summer blockbuster movie that, in my prediction, I was like, James Gunn not only has to please Superman fans, which is insane, that's a high bar, but he's also got to deliver for the people who are just going to watch a summer blockbuster. They're going to just stuff popcorn in their mouth, or they're going with their boyfriend. My wife came with me, and she's like, yeah, it was good. She literally in the middle of the movie asked me if Lois Lane was a superhero. That's how much she understands about like comics and stuff like that. But leaving the movie theater, she had a really, really good time. So James Gunn on my, like, she is the litmus test, so to speak. I am the opposite. Like, I'm the huge comic book nerd. She just wanted to go watch a movie. And James Gunn did a good job of pleasing both demographics. And that's kind of hard to do. So yeah, honestly, I'd have to give this like a 9 out of 10. It was one of my favorite movie theater experiences I've had in a really, really long time. I would say I was going to love this movie no matter what, but I've seen Batman v Superman in theater, and I thought I was going to love that movie. And after that movie, I was sitting in my car and it felt like someone had hit me on the back of the head with a baseball bat because I was so confused as to what happened. So that's why my expectations were tempered going into this movie. But if you're a Superman fan, go see this movie. If you just want to see a good movie that gives you great feelings, great positivity, great messaging, go see this movie. You're going to like it. I give it a 9 out of 10. And yeah, 9 out of 10. So stinking fun. I've been grateful. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.